We're back. Let's see how many people find us when we come back. Oh, dude, that's what dude, that's not happy with that.
You sticking with that? You can go ahead and stick with that?
You're gonna stick with that? Dude, listen up.
Dude, all right.
Go
ahead.
My guy. No, so last week there was the video. I figured out what was going on. Remember, I was like, when I switched it, I was like, why does it not say recording anymore? Apparently there is a cloud capacity for how much videos StreamYard will store. So I had to delete a bunch of old videos.
I want to say this before we get Wimberley,
correct. Correct. What's up? Grayson made it back. Chantel made it back, or is here. Susan, Chris,
Hello,
Capri.
everyone.
Capri feels like a new name. Is Capri a new name?
I think we've seen Capri before.
Oh, ahoy, Capri.
Yeah.
Hey, Liz and Brian made it back. Tool Girl made it back. I just realized a lot of these people aren't back. They're just here. They came from the Patreon stream.
But a lot of the ones you were saying did make it back
from
Patreon.
Yeah. Riveting Patreon stream. Zach was pouting. Janet was
I pouting?
Very rude to him.
I wasn't pouting. I was talking to the people while you talked amongst yourselves.
Hang on, Rogue. I got a quick plumbing issue I got to take care of. Be right back.
Okay.
I feel like you could have done that at any point before this. Oh my goodness. This is so unreal with him all the time. Oh, I sure did cry before we even got started today, Janet, just so you know.
Oh, buddy.
I'm doing good. Doing good.
I'm glad that you're doing good now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I feel like I'm still kind of COVID-y because I'm just kind of spacey. I feel like I haven't been showing. I mean, I've flipped the bird a few times.
You know
but
what?
That doesn't mean I'm not. Yeah.
Definitely...
Also, it's very hot in here, but I can't turn the air conditioning on.
It is
it's loud.
Stupid hot here. I don't know what
so I think it's slowing me down, but I still feel that like tickle in my chest. You know, it's like something's going on down there, but it's not like coming out. So I guess this is my life now.
When I got here, it was 90 degrees, which is hot, but it's 70% humidity, which means it's like we have a heat advisory right now.
Yeah.
It's like 106 degrees, I think is what they say it is, something like that. What's the heat advisory say? It's like 106.
Over 100 was real hot.
Yeah, it's
air conditioning was not working in my.
When I got here, it was 90 degrees and 70% humidity.
Still, it's 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah, it's crazy.
No.
I didn't know how bad it was. So the AC is not working in my room. There's something they got to fix. So like luckily my room's like attached to the library, so I had the door open with the fan blowing in, and it was.
Thank God.
But it was still like, it's like still kind of hot and icky in here, which is what I felt like until I opened the front door and walked out of school today and was like, oh, it's like, okay, never mind. It's so much better. Because at that point the heat index was like close to 110 degrees, and the humidity is through the. It was like walking into a wall, like walking into a steam room. It's terrible.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
I like all these people in Michigan agreeing with me. I'm like, yeah, no shit. You're in Michigan with us. That's what I'm trying to say. It's fucking hot.
I don't know why you're so mean to the people.
Sorry, I love you guys. I didn't mean to be mean to all of you people.
Oh, you know what? Actually, Tool Girl sent me something to give you.
No. Don't do a tape to the camera. He'll see that.
Tool Girl sent me this to give to you, Zach.
God, we are children.
You started it.
Oh, I said we. I didn't say you.
None of us are responsible for any of this. You are the eldest amongst us, barely.
That's true.
Look, I got a 4 in the front of my age now, wherever it is.
Yeah. Zach is an old man
or something.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I forgot. Mimi. Listen, nobody listen. This is just for Mimi.
You already gave Mimi the finger.
I gave you the finger, and it was from Tool Girl. It wasn't my fault. Mimi, I was told that tonight was the night that you were going to meet Erica's friend.
Mimi.
I don't know. It just occurred to me that trivia is happening right now. I don't know if you were going to be meeting the friend before or after trivia. This is what I need from you, Mimi. If you meet him after,
punch him in the head.
If this fella comes in and he's wearing his purse, I need you to hit him with your purse. I feel like you and me, Mimi, I feel like we're on the same page with this.
We had a gentleman leave a satchel at the shop the other day.
He keeps calling it a satchel. Every time I'm around him, I tell him it's not a satchel. That is a purse.
It might be the same person because we saw it and we're like, we're like, who left their purse here? And they're like, we've all tattooed guys all day. Why is there a purse sitting over here?
Apparently
Satchel.
it's a new.
It was a satchel, but it's a purse.
I'm told that it is a new thing that the fellas are doing. I can't listen. A lot of things I can get behind. I cannot get behind this fella wearing the same purse that my daughter has.
Listen, it is
The
not a new
same-
thing.
I'm into it. I have no problem with it.
In
I'm great
2009,
with it.
Mr. Chow had a purse that he carried around.
It's a satchel. That's what it keeps saying. That's what it keeps telling me. We were at trivia a couple weeks ago. And we were like, I was in the middle of we was sitting next to me in the middle of a conversation and loved the kid to death. Great kid. And like mid conversation, we're like getting up to leave, and he like picked it up off the ground because he had snuck it in to like put his stuff in. I'm like, I'm sorry, excuse me, sir. Is that a purse? Is that a purse? She's like, it's a satchel. Like, no, sir. That is a purse. My daughter has the same one.
Well, everything's good in
listen.
gender normative land over
Listen,
here. with
Everybody's
Barbara.
cool with it. Most people, I feel like if anybody's going to be on my side on this, it's Mimi. And Mimi, I need you to
That's
take
right.
your
This wasn't
purse.
for us. This was for Mimi. So
Yeah, I
Mimi,
told
I'm
you guys
sorry that
not
we
even. Why are
jumped
you even
in.
talking to me? I told you not
I
even
don't know.
listen.
It just happened. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, smack him with your purse. And Mimi, tell him it's for me. Oh, also Mimi, I've got something else for you to pass on to him from me. If you could let him know that I sent you.
No. No.
And that's been our show, folks. Have a good night.
Oh, Mimi. Mimi's into it. She gets it.
Oh, Tool Girl said that she's going to be in North Adams on Friday. That's where the Berkshires Festival. I haven't talked to Josh. I wonder if it's sold out yet, because I know tickets were moving.
I'm gonna see how long I can hold my breath.
I guess now's a good time.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Well,
Why are you holding your breath? I don't.
I'm not now. I just
but
Okay. Anyway,
Huh.
get your tickets to Berkshires. If you haven't done it yet, get them. Promo code fall into the sound.
fall into the sound.
that was good because I did not know where you're going with that, but I think that
Fall
is
into the sound.
Yeah, 20% off. $100. Come hang out with all of us. Sans Janet, maybe, possibly.
Mm,
Especially, did we tell you? You know that the Matas are staying in the Airbnb with us, right?
I'm glad that worked out. And by glad, I mean,
what's the matter?
but I am glad.
There is still a fourth bed. There's still a bedroom available for you.
Well, you know, it's funny because I just today, I just got my availability checked for a shoot, and it is that like the dates sandwiching that weekend. So I'm like, okay, I get it. Jeez, I'm not supposed to go. Maybe I'm just not supposed to get on a plane. Like,
so what if the plane? I'm not even gonna say that because then if it happens, I'll feel real bad.
yeah, don't.
Yeah,
But could have just been something that would happen just to me.
right.
What if one seat on the plane?
Yeah. What if seat 4B
Yeah.
falls out of the bottom of the plane
Yep.
and you just happen to not be on it?
Could happen. Could happen.
Oh,
All right.
We
I
should
guess we should get started.
get this show started. Oh, we need to end the pregame because I did remember to record it. Because by the way, all of you
I can't believe
pregamers,
you did that. I can't believe you remembered.
I remembered last week. What happened last week was StreamYard didn't record the video because it was out of cloud storage, apparently. So that's why the pregamers or the Patreon people got
At least now we know.
two pieces of video. But you'll have everything's good now. Recording
Great.
on here. You got yourself an hour and 5-minute pregame episode that will drop on Wednesday, just for you Patreon folks. And
With
we're
5 minutes of good content.
7. With 7.
And then
And a few
45 minutes of really boring COVID talk. Just what everyone's
I have to
looking
remember
for.
because the one thing. So when Erica is now publishing these, she's doing the edits on the pregame and publishing them, and then but she doesn't. But you don't have to. We don't edit these. It's literally just throwing music on the end and we throw them out there.
Right.
But so she doesn't know what to put in the description. And so every time she asks me, and I'm like, "What did we talk about?"
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I look at those descriptions when they come through my feed, and I it's like a little trip down memory lane.
I would like her to label them the same way that like the Always Sunny labels them, where it's like gang gets canceled this week.
Yeah.
That you
And
could
with
definitely
that-
use that. Yeah.
And with that, we're gonna say goodbye to our pre-gamers. We love you guys, and we'll
Bye,
talk to you guys next week. Bye,
pre-gamers.
guys.
Oh, bye.
Idiot.
Dude, you gonna go with it?
All right. And oh man, I thought that was gonna sneak in from off screen. It was
There's
I'm
no way.
recording.
I'm recording. 1, 2, 3.
There's no way we make it through this week well. Ahoy, friends. Thank you for tuning in to Truth and Justice. You are listening to the Friday follow-up for Season 15, Episode 9, Karate. Karate. God. Here we go.
Maybe take it from the top.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Erica. The worst part is this is such an emotional episode for me to flail like this.
You guys should know that Zach cried before we even started recording
Yeah.
today.
All things can be true. We can also laugh.
Here we go. Ahoy, friends. Thank you for tuning in to Truth and Justice. You are listening to the Friday follow-up for Season 15, Episode 9, Karate. This week was an emotional one as we heard Bob's conversation with the family of Darius Wimberly. Darius' story tragically takes place in the same city as Jody's case, Benton Harbor, Michigan. Darius was shot and killed by Benton Harbor police officers in 2016. You are undoubtedly going to need tissues for this follow-up as Bob, Janet, and I try to make sense of it all. But before we dive headfirst into that, let's start a little lighthearted. Bob, how was your first week of school?
Oh, really good. I mean, it's I'm only 2 days into it with students, and it's going really well. I've got, I think, 61 kids spread out throughout my classes, and everybody seems to be enjoying it. Last year, the program was new, so they just kind of like threw a bunch of people into it that didn't know why they were in there or didn't care to be in there, and I had to convince them. This year, there's wait lists for some of the class for people that want to be in, and everybody seems to be having a good time. So
that's pretty incredible that
great.
people just join not knowing what it is, and now you have 2 employees based on that.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
It worked out.
Yep,
And by the way, that's a pretty good motivator for my students too, because when we were talking about like yesterday in class, they're kind of interviewing me to get to know me as their teacher.
Mhm.
So I let them, we do like this round robin exercise, an active listening exercise where one person asks me a question about anything and I answer it, and then the next person asks another question, but it has to be a follow-up to the previous one. And we're kind of going, and they're asking about the podcast and stuff like that. And I told them that there is an 18-year-old former student from last year that is now working full-time and helping produce and edit and write the podcast. They were all, especially the ones that are really interested in a broadcasting career, are really excited about that.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But don't anybody try to muscle in and take Erica's job. She's doing great.
Yeah, no, we would have to expand because she's become quite an integral part of the operation at this point. As we joke around, but it's really not that much of a joke. She's kind of my boss now.
Love it. I love it.
She's here all day, working, researching, writing outlines, and then she tells me what I need to do when I get back. So that's all going well. I do want to get right into this episode because, like you said, the first thing you guys need to know is for the last week when we were doing the episode, and I just kept saying like I wasn't all right and I was kind of out of it, particularly like through like the pregame stuff and the pre-show stuff before we started recording. You heard some of in that episode why that was, but there was probably another 30 minutes of that interview that were cut out. I actually recorded that intro about like the bad sound quality and stuff on it because I had listened to the raw recording. And I didn't even realize, I think Janet had messaged me and said, I thought the sound quality was fine. I didn't realize, like Erica did a really good job of cleaning that up. But that meant that there was a lot of stuff that had to come out of it. Some stuff at the end we had taken out of it. So there was even more to it than what you guys heard. Why was it such, because a lot of what had to be cut out were just like some really emotional parts where it was almost undiscernible what was happening because we were kind of such a mess during the conversation. But I think first thing before we get into questions about it, I'm going to throw it to you guys. I want to hear what you guys have to say about it. But I know like Zach and I had to talk beforehand, and it's a real touchy situation. So I just want to lay out kind of my feelings on the whole thing. I absolutely do not believe personally the official story from the police. I don't believe that's what happened at all. But I also do want to be fair and point out that, and I think that Ayanna and Tyrone and Labella would agree too. Like they were telling us what they think happened. So I just want to make clear that I'm not trying to tell anyone that's listening that because they gave you their theory about what happened, and how it happened, that is the way it happened. We don't know that. This is something that I'm pretty passionate about fully investigating this to try to figure out exactly what happened here. But I just want to make clear that I don't expect, and I don't think they expect, everyone just to take for gospel that is the way it happened, that there was this whole setup thing that happened there. And with that being said, I'll throw whichever one of you guys wants to go first. What were your thoughts?
JB, go ahead.
Well, I'll just say, just to kind of expand on what you just said, you know, I think it's a really clear example of what happens in the absence of the full truth. I mean, of course you're gonna. I mean, if you don't know exactly what happened, then you're going to listen to the streets. You're going to listen to all the different things. You're trying to piece together this patchwork of stuff, and it's just completely understandable. And so yeah, I think there were definitely questions from people about trying to kind of keep up with some of the things that were being described, and wanting some clarification, hoping for some clarification on the kind of um chain of events as the family understands them. But it sounds like there are still so many questions. It's like, what do you have? What do you have to hold on to? And that's a problem, and that gap exists because of the police. So at the end of the day, I think it still comes back to them. It was heartbreaking. I am a very emotional person. I was very upset for pretty much the entirety of the episode. That being said, I really liked that little sliver of time we got to know Karate's family a little bit, and I this is neither here nor there, but I thought they were all so well spoken, and I just loved the sound of their voices. And so it was, if I had to listen to that horrible story and the horrible pain that they're in, there was something that was still like incredibly lovable about it. And I think, like many listeners, my heart is just broken for them, and for the pain that they're in, and for that feeling of injustice, and also just so many unanswered questions.
No, I'm right there with you. I mean, I came in here, and as Bob said before we started, I mean, I had a conversation with Bob because I didn't even know what I wanted to say, because this was such an emotional episode. And I'm right there with Bob, and I'm glad he said that. Like, these people have been through so much, and it was good to hear their story. Good is probably not the right word, but it was good to hear their story, and I'm glad that you were able to give them a voice to tell their story. But I also believe that we need to do justice to this story and figure out what truly happened, not just what the police say would happen, or not just what the family say happened, because there's a lot of gray area, and I think that it's maybe it's not down the middle, but it's somewhere in between. And I think that we need to do justice for this family. We need to do justice for Darius, and I don't know what that looks like, but we need to figure it out.
Yeah, we need answers to it, and
Absolutely.
and it really meant a lot to me to be able to give them the opportunity to tell their story. And we heard that, like, I know we have questions, and I don't want to get too far ahead, because people trying to like track exactly what happened. Like, what you were hearing was a family who has been desperate because Darius was villainized through this, right?
Sure.
So when the body cam came out, that's what everybody was saying. In fact, I need to file a FOIA request to try to get more of the documents. She has some. You heard her mention, like, briefly, that she got some through a law firm that did get some.
Yeah.
For example, one of the documents was the document that showed that they did a gunshot residue test on Darius's hands, and that there was no GSR on it. She gave that. Ayana cried in my office after the interview. That's what was happening right before I came to try to get on the show, or to get on the follow-up last week. She was talking about, like, meeting up with me to give me the documents so I can take them and scan them to help further investigate the case. And she was so upset because the police wouldn't release any of the documents to her. This lawyer did get a copy of them. They're paper documents, and she gave the one that showed that there was no gunshot residue to a reporter, because she was just deaf, because they were going with this police narrative that Darius was shooting at the police, and that's why they shot him back. And she was sobbing because she had given that to a reporter, just desperate for them to tell the real story, and they never did, and she never got it back from them. And she's never been able to get a hold of that person to get the paperwork, that that piece of the file back. But it was, once that body cam footage came out, as I try to make this clear in the intro, that it's kind of a game to me. It seemed like a game of sleight of hand from the police, because they didn't exist. Like, they never said, there you see Darius walking in the, and by the way, when I first published the episode, I forgot to put the link into the body cam footage. It's in there now. So if you have the episode and it's not there, if you remove it from your device and re-download it, the link's there. If you can't find the link, I'll try to remember to put it into the, or send it to Erica so she can put it into the description of this episode as well. But like, they never said that person walking is the person that was shooting at them.
Right.
But it was like, they tell this story that they're on the porch and they're doing this, and then somebody just starts shooting. Darius starts shooting at him from the street, and they prove this by giving you the body cam footage. Then you're like led to, like you believe, you just, your mind jumps to, oh, that must be him in the street. That must be him walking by. And it's not until you dig deeper, which no one ever did publicly, that you find out that that wasn't him. That person walking was not there. And I remember thinking when I saw it, like, just the build that you can see of the silhouette of that person didn't look like Darius. Darius had really, really like broad, high shoulders. It was distinctive. If anybody's seen any videos of with him, like, he had really like super wide, high shoulders. And so you can like, I could tell when they walked, but when I started really looking, like, oh, that's clearly not and then I found out that Darius was on a bike. But point being, what I was getting at was, what you were hearing was, all that happened was that body cam came out, and then every news outlet, everyone just started saying that, well, that's what happened. You shoot the police, that's what happened. This thug is out there shooting at police until they killed him. And they were just desperate. And all of a sudden, finally, there's someone that says, here, you can come here and you can tell your story. And you can hear they were all so anxious to get everything out. It kind of got confusing, I think, at times.
And I think you do need to remember the time period of this 2016 time period. There was a rash of this going across the country, of police officers being shot. So when you heard this story and that's the narrative, you're like, this is another one of those.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, once you heard it, not that it's good to lump it in with that, but that's what you heard. And you're like, you believed it because there was this crazy thing going on across the country that it was happening.
Yeah. And there were also a lot of, like, in other cities, like, riots and things happening because of police shooting black men. It's particularly on our black men. Because I remember the time when they released the body cam footage, I thought that was a good move, because they right away, they came out and said, here it is. And it quelled all that.
Right. But then, we have the advantage, such as it is, of, you had sent me the link to that body cam footage before the interview came out. So I, of course, watched it from the very specific perspective of, I already am suspicious about this. I already, you know what I mean? Like, I have the advantage of having this information that flows in later, or all these questions are being asked. And so when I watched the body cam footage, I definitely, with really knowing no context, I was like, what did I just see? I didn't see anything. Like, I didn't see anything. I heard someone say shots fired. I saw someone running away, but I didn't see who did it. I didn't see who was the first to shoot. I didn't see anything. And so I think the sleight of hand that you're talking about too is because you get this feeling of like, oh, well, they're being transparent. But then when you really look at what they released, you're like, this tells me nothing at all. Like, it doesn't really tell me.
When you find out later that was never, ever discussed, that I'm aware of publicly in the press, in the fact that Darius was shot by a rifle in the street. And then you're like, well, why didn't we just get that body cam footage? That person,
exactly.
Like, that's the body cam footage that we should have got, instead of somebody that was up on the porch.
Yes.
And that's kind of the,
you've given us there's multiple people there, and you've given us the body cam footage of someone who can't show anything.
Before we get too far ahead, let's go ahead and jump into the questions.
Okay. Well, as I kind of teased before, I think people are just wanting to make sure, not so much that they're doubting anything necessarily, or that they're calling it into question, but genuinely just wanting to make sure that they understand the narrative as as much as it could be discussed and as much as the family understands it in the episode. So Kim, for example, said, it was a free flowing conversation. I was a little confused by some elements. Am I right in the following understandings as they were presented in that conversation? The police selectively released body cam footage showing a different person than Karate, but giving the impression that the person standing and walking by was Karate, when Karate actually wasn't visible in the footage they released. 2, Karate was dating a girl who was also dating a corrupt police officer. And 3, that police officer was possibly the one who shot Karate in the back. I think I'm clear on the rest. Karate was helping kids in the neighborhood and teaching them to defend themselves without weapons. Sounds like, as again, the story as it was told in the interview, the cops wanted him as a CI. He told them no, and so they made his life a misery. So is that that I think just wanting to make sure that's kind of those are some key points that were made in the conversation.
Some of it, some of it's not accurate. One particular element, the police officer, which they refer to as the corrupt police officer. I can't come out and just say that is a corrupt police officer. My understanding was that he was fired at one point. He got his job back. I've heard all kinds of allegations about this person, but I don't know for sure exactly what this person did. But that officer is Chris Takamoto. It's the same officer who was the first responding officer to Demario Loza's murder.
Right.
Same officer. So that name should sound familiar to you. And from what the family said was that Takamoto was having an affair with someone that lived at that house, and Darius was also in a relationship with that person lived in the house, who lived in that house. As far as the story goes, first things first, again, if you go back and listen to what I asked them was, what do you think happened? So that's what this is their theory. This is what they believe happened, and it's based on what they've seen in the police reports, and it's based on talking to people in the neighborhood. I believe they mentioned, I believe that part made the cut of the episode. But they said there was the one person who lived right there that they knew that was watching. I think that was doing like construction on a house or whatever. That there's police there. They were paying attention, watching what happened, and said they never saw a muzzle flash coming from where Darius was at. Like they saw Darius on the bike, they saw Darius get shot, but they said all the muzzle flashes were coming from the other direction. And as like Zach and I were discussing earlier, that's accurate. That's pretty significant, because when you shoot a gun in the dark, you see it.
Yeah, it's a bright flash.
Yeah, a big bright explosion that comes out of the end of a gun,
and truthfully blinding. I mean, you cannot once you see a shot, it's hard to see anything else, because your eyes, the way your eyes adjust to it or try to adjust to it.
Yeah,
it hurts you.
Yeah, and especially if you're right on it.
Mm-hmm.
But like from a distance watching it, you could certainly see, like, because what they said that he told them was that he saw all the muzzle flashes coming from the other way, but didn't see any muzzle flashes coming from where Darius was at. As far as what was going on in the house, I was never completely clear on it. So, and it sounds like they're very confused about it too. So the official report was the police were called to that house with a report of someone being held at gunpoint. And then in the official report, it says, which I played that news clip at the beginning, is they said when they got there, the people at the house said no one there had called 911. And that was always a confusing part for any of us that were watching it in 2016 when it happened. Was, so did the person, like, are they saying, because again, they never said, they just like leave you to fill in the blanks. Like, are they trying to say that like Darius called 911 to draw the police to the house? Because that was kind of the impression you got.
That was the
back
impression
then.
that we got. Yeah.
Yeah. Based on that reporting, was nobody at the house called 911. So Darius must have called 911 to draw the police to the house and then open fire on them. But then it also said in the news reports, when I was going back and reading them and listening to them, it said that the police didn't believe that Darius was shooting at them. They thought Darius was shooting at someone in the house. Then you hear from the family, from like there was no bullet holes in the house, at least that they were aware of. The little bits of the body cam footage that doesn't have the audio, you heard like the quiet spots in it. If you watch the video that you hear the people at the house almost sounding confused. So the whole thing is confusing. It sounds like Someone had taken a phone, like taken Darius's phone. They think that Darius had gone to the house to get the phone and then left the house, and then they called 911, and then the police came and Darius was gone. But then that also doesn't make sense, because then why then when they get to the house do they say we never called 911? So
Right.
like if you're confused by the whole thing, and I think I even said, I don't remember if it made the cut in the interview. I think it was part of the we cut off at the end. Was, I was telling them, I'm like, this is very confusing. I'm trying to track all this, and they said it's because it's confusing. It doesn't nothing makes sense.
From what I remember of when it happened, it was presented as if it was an ambush on the police. Like it was set up that someone called to get them there.
Right.
And that's what we heard from a lot of people, was this was an ambush to get the police there.
Right. But
an ambush by one person on foot. If the police would have you believe that it's the person walking by. One person on foot is ambushing the police.
And what's crazy is Zach's right. That was kind of the impression everybody had from it. What I was surprised at, I don't think I played the full, because I didn't play the full news report at the beginning. Like in that news report, which was from that day, the press release from the Benton Harbor Police Department, and there's actually another one I have a clip of McGinnis giving a press conference later. They specifically said that we don't think they were shooting at us. They were shooting at someone in the house. So it's like, what? So
like the person inside the house was about to say something incriminating, and so it was better to take a chance to shoot past police officers.
There's like, and you saw there in the video, there's like
from saying,
yeah, there's like 3 cops on the porch. So this is the confusing story that the police gave. The police gave the story that says someone called 911 from that house and said someone is holding someone at gunpoint in the house. So they responded to the house. When they got there, the people in the house said no one here called 911. And then a person on the street, Darius on the street, started shooting at the people in the house who had said they never even called 911. And you can kind of hear in the little bits of audio that's in the body cam, you hear the cop explaining. He's like, somebody said somebody's here getting held at gunpoint, and they're like, no, that's not whatever. So like, if we just take what the police are saying, that doesn't make sense, right? Like that's confusing in and of itself. So then we take what the family, what they've gathered from their own investigation, doing as best they can to try to investigate it, was that there was some kind of beef with the people in that house. Darius had gone to that house to get a phone back, and then Darius had left. We don't know who made that phone call to the police, but then Darius is still right there in the area on his bike. And the police come down, they walk down there from the police station or from wherever they parked their vehicles. And, he was shot. And the part about Darius being shot by someone with a rifle, that I had heard just prior to that, from somebody that knows one of the cops that was involved in it, that they were shot with a rifle from the street. And that was the first thing when I heard that. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Then why did we not see that body cam footage?
Yeah.
Right.
So I guess the point is that there were so many people that were like, the conversation was there was too much going on, and so it was so confusing. That's not the problem. The problem is nothing makes sense here. Nothing adds up.
Now, just to clarify, and I don't know, we for sure cannot say that this is 100% certain, but Takamoto is not the officer in question of killing Darius, though. Takamoto was on scene, but Takamoto is not.
Right.
So there's been a couple questions. That this question in particular says something about Takamoto. There's a couple questions in the chat. Takamoto is not the officer in question of actually shooting Darius that night.
Yeah, thank you for that, because that's when I started talking about Takamoto. That's where I was going with it, and I don't think I ever got there. Yeah, Takamoto was not the one. It was as far as we know, it was. I've heard 2 different officers, both with rifles in the street, neither of whom were Chris Takamoto, were the ones that did the shooting. According to the family, Takamoto was there, but he was not on duty when he was there. And then I also had heard in other conversations that Takamoto was there and wasn't the one that shot it, or maybe even that they had discharged we talked about this, that they had discharged Takamoto discharged his firearm, but he didn't hit Darius or something like that.
Which, by the way, I wish Shiloh were here, because she's very trained in like crisis response and stuff, and I know that I think Darius's mom said something about this, but I'm not sure that if you're saying you've had a hostage situation reported, I'm just not sure the protocol is to walk up to someone's door and ring the doorbell. I don't think, again, I'm not trained, but I don't think, regardless of whether or not you jump in your car and whiz over, regardless of all of that, I'm just not sure if someone's holding someone at gunpoint. I'm not sure you just go up to the door and knock. I feel like that's not what you do, but I would like to have an expert weigh in on that.
Well, I would think too, and again, I'm not trained in this, but just like common sense wise, I would think if you have people there with rifles and stuff that are because of the situation, I would think you would have people around the backside of the house, the back of the surrounding the house,
Right.
and then maybe if you have somebody go like make contact at the door, but like them being out on the street is super weird to me. Like, why are they out
Yeah.
on the street if they think the threat is in the house?
Yeah.
So the one thing I'll say that I did take away that I don't know if I agree with is there was kind of the concern that the police showed up, there was no lights, no sirens, no none of that. I don't, in my understanding, I don't think they go to hostage situations, lights and sirens blaring, because I think they're trying.
No, they don't.
So I don't think that was.
No,
I
I'm
know
not saying that that's weird. I'm not saying
I'm not
that's
saying
weird,
you were.
but
I'm saying
yeah.
in the interview they said, why were they there without lights and sirens? And I don't think, I just to play devil's advocate for a second, not that it means anything, but I just don't think they also don't arrive to the scene lights and sirens.
And they were talking about, and I think this was still part of the interview that they got left in there. Like there was another, there had been a similar hostage situation at Highlands. Actually, was the apartments that Jody used to live in the year before that or something like that. And they, in that instance, they did roll up with light, and they like evacuated the building and surrounded it. There were lights. It was like there was a whole show of it that they were there. And so I think maybe that's what they expected. Well, maybe that's how they always did it. They're sure there's different circumstances. But no, it would make sense for them to. But again, like this whole discussion is worth having until you consider the fact that the people in the house said no one in there called 911.
Yeah.
Like what?
I know. Well, yeah. I mean, again, we're just going off of this tiny morsel of what seems like information from the cops. And then, I mean, we're trying to extrapolate so much from so little because they're not giving much. Speaking of the body cam footage, Gail says, my understanding in my large city, police body cam is stored in a cloud with only authorized personnel having access. Is this true in this town? If so, who are the authorized personnel?
I don't know for sure, but I would have to guess that it's the same person that's in charge of all of the other documents and information from that town, which would be Chief or Public Safety Director McGinnis. And we'll see how this goes. Maybe they'll just turn it. I mean, because I'm filing a FOIA request. This is a closed case. Everything is public record. It should be public record. There should be no excuse whatsoever for them not to turn over every bit of this. Can't blame it on a previous chief shredding stuff. All of this stuff should still be available. So I'm going to file the FOIA request and see what we can find. Then I'm also going to get what Ayanna already has. But the big thing that I want to see with my own eyes that we have the I want to see that report that says there's no gunshot residue on Darius's hands. Because if you listen to that bit, I played it was very purposeful that I played that short clip of the body cam footage for those of you that listen to it, is because there are so many gunshots.
Yeah.
There are so many shots happening there. And they're claiming that I think the official, don't quote me on this, but I believe they said they fired 13 times or something like that. There's way more shots than that, which means that Darius would have been firing apparently from both hands several shots. There's no reason there shouldn't be gunshot residue all over his hands and arms on that. Like and that adds in. So if I had to guess, to me, it seems unlikely that what happened was this whole thing was like an elaborate setup to go kill Darius that night. And this is just hypothesis on my part. If I had to guess, I would guess that what one of the witnesses told them is what happened, which is they were there on the street. Darius was in the street and somebody fired a gun somewhere else, like in the backyard.
Mm-hmm.
And they mistakenly shot Darius in the dark, and then tried to cover it up is what I would guess probably happened. I have no idea what actually did happen, but it goes to like, this is still a bigger, huge problem because let's say it was an honest mistake. Then if that's the case, then they took the steps to plant evidence on him and then smear this man's name all over the media forever and ever.
Yeah.
Like that is like somebody needs to be in prison. Somebody needs to be in prison because of Jody's case already. Somebody needs to be in prison because of Richard Perry's case already. And someone should be in prison for this one. This is not okay to treat people like this.
No, and it's and it's so depressing how easy it is to imagine that iteration of the story, whether that's what happened or not. It's incredibly easy, given what we know so far. It's just so easy to imagine them being like, "Oh shit, people are going to be pissed that this happened. How do we spin this? Like, what if that's what happened?" But it doesn't say good things about this department. That the second you suggest that, I'm like, well, that definitely makes sense. Like, that doesn't seem like a stretch at all.
Why?
Like, we're already there. We're already in a place where that seems normal. Like, oh, well, that would make sense. That's just a small cover up. Like, oh my God, what are we saying?
And despite what we already know about them, and we're getting into, we have thank you to Caroline Dwyer, who's done a ton of research on this. We have an episode that's coming up to chronicle all of the cases, just like this one, just like Jody's case, where there's all of these allegations of corruption and lies and things that the Benton Harbor Police Department has done over the years. But if you take away all of that and you just look at this case, like, we're having this discussion because something's being hidden here, right? We shouldn't be having like this. This should be, if things went down the way they said it went down, that would be so easy to show and prove and put an end to this. Someone in the chat asked, was the 911 call ever released? I've never heard it. I've never heard it. Where is it? I'm going to FOIA it. I'll bet you a paycheck I don't get it. Because, like, why don't we know who called 911? Why don't we know what time they called 911? Why don't we have the recording? Why haven't they played the recording of this is what the person said? Who was it? What phone number did it come from? Why don't we have the body cam footage of the person that was actually doing the shooting or all the other cops? Why do we only have the body cam footage of the one cop that was not the one that was in the street where the person was killed? There's all of these intentional things that are left out of the narrative. So even if we didn't know all the other things that makes us think like, yeah, this sounds about right, it's still fucked up. There's no reason we should have these questions. And it's just incredible to me that all of this could be happening in a town that's 4.7 square fucking miles. That's being run by just a handful of people. And they just keep doing it and keep getting away with it over and over and over again.
It doesn't give you a lot of faith in any kind of internal affairs investigation either. Like, so much stuff just seems so sloppy that it's like, well, it's not like you're going to be like, I don't know. Like, you're supposed to be, it's a big deal when a cop shoots a person. It's a big deal. It's supposed to be a big deal. It's supposed to be a really big deal. It's supposed to be investigated. It's supposed to be very, very critically viewed. And you know what I'm saying? And we all know that we've seen, time and again, like, well, the jury found that this shooting was a quote unquote good shooting. Well, they never pressed charges. We've all seen that. But we've also seen what's happened in the last several years. And that there is some accountability in some cases, not enough, sure. But it's supposed to be a big deal. It's not supposed to just be like, oh, we'll just give him a little breadcrumb here and a breadcrumb there. And then, we'll just shove everything else under the rug. Like, that stuff is supposed to be really specifically, critically looked at and preserved for the record.
Well,
so it's out there. Should be.
Yeah. And I think the biggest issue that we have with this case and all these cases is that nobody cares. The people of Benton Harbor, the community in Benton Harbor, are treated like throwaways. Nobody cares. That's why we're doing this because and by the way, I mean nobody complained about this or said anything, but for anybody's thinking like why we're trying to investigate this, we need to care. We need more people to care, of a light to be shown on the people that are running the city, between the police department, between the city council, the mayor, everybody. Something has got to change. Someone has to care. These are human beings. Nobody is a throwaway. They are not throwaways. And it doesn't matter because, and Zach, correct me if I'm wrong. If this happened to a white person in St. Joe, do you think we would have any of these questions?
Absolutely not.
Not a fucking chance.
No.
Not a fucking chance. We would have one question. You would know every single step and every second of everything that happened because people would demand it.
Yeah.
That's why we're doing this for all these cases. We have to be the people that are demanding it.
Well, we talked a little about the GSR. Kathy, I know that was your question. Anna, we talked about your question about the FOIA and, where is this footage? Anna also says, did I hear correctly? I'm going to have a hard time saying this, I think. Did I hear correctly that Darius' family washed his body on the street?
That I do not believe that is what they were discussing, cleaning the scene afterwards, not his body.
Yeah, his body was removed, but they didn't clean the street.
Yeah.
After his body was removed.
Yeah. Thank you for that clarification. That was that's a tough thing already, and then to imagine that on top. We did have a question about, well, certainly what happened to the gun or guns used in the crime, or what allegedly happened, along with the question of, did Darius own a gun?
I don't know what happened to the guns. All that's hopefully going to come in a FOIA request. I'm just trying to choose my words carefully. Darius has never. Sorry, this really isn't that complicated, but it was just something that was said to me off the air. So I'm just trying to be careful about what I share. I'll say this. According to Darius's family, they've never seen Darius with that gun. The one that was in the picture, that was not his gun. They have no idea where he would have come across that gun, and they don't believe for a second that he ever would have had it.
And Ashton says there was a part of the story about him being run over by someone while he was on his bike. Is that a separate incident? I know we talked about his leg being broken, but were there two separate incidents where it seemed that a car was involved with Darius on his bike? And could you just clarify those as you understand them?
Yeah, and I don't have the exact details on it, but that was part of the buildup, that the police had been chasing him, harassing him, and then they had run him over on his bike and he had broke his leg. That was a previous incident. But it was confusing because also the night he was shot and killed, his leg was so badly, as they put it, was so badly broken that they had a hard time getting, fitting him into the casket. And that was just one of the things that how does that happen?
Right.
I was shot 9 times from a rifle from a distance. He ends up with his leg broke so badly that they can't even straighten it out to put it into a casket.
Yeah. And Ashton was wondering about that other incident, if that was something that, maybe they would have made a report about or something, just to sort of help bolster evidence.
I don't know. I doubt it. Because, I mean, you gotta understand. It's kind of like the question about Darius with a gun. What do we learn? There was a reason, and I keep coming back to this, that the first episode of the season was what it is. You need to understand what it's like to live in that community. Everybody in that community has a gun to protect themselves, to police themselves, because the police aren't protecting them, so they're protecting themselves. They also have no trust, no community with the police department. So if the police department are the ones that are harassing you and are running you over or doing whatever, who are you going to call?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe I know at one point, Ayana did say, or Lavella grandma had said something about them contacting the state police about something, one of the incidents somewhere along the line. I don't remember which one it was.
Right. Sarah's wondering if we know any more, if you guys talked offline, if there's any more you can share, if you know it at all, about this idea of wanting Darius to be an informant. Is there a specific person? Do you know any more about that?
Only what they told me, and they gave the name of the officer that had approached Darius about that. But that's just coming from them, and I'm sure there will be no documentation of that anywhere. So that, I mean, that's just one of those, like, we're the finders of fact here, right? That you heard the story, and you got to decide whether that's something you believe. I mean, I believe it. I believe in that. This whole thing. I always hesitate. You always hear people saying, "Not this person. They would never." And I thought about that a lot when I said what I said at the beginning of this episode, but I just can't stress enough how completely out of character someone who is not family, just knew him as a teacher-student relationship. I never believed it until I thought I saw what I thought I saw on the body cam footage. But I cannot stress to you enough, from someone who knew this young man, how completely, insanely out of character it would be for Darius Wimberly to shoot a gun at anyone. I cannot stress that enough. And you can, people have whatever respect they have for me, for my opinions about things, but that is a big part of the reason I've had such a hard time with this, because it's like, there's no fucking way. You will never convince me, unless I have hard evidence, a video of him doing it. You will never convince me that Darius was shooting a gun at a group of people standing on a porch. No fucking way.
Well, I'm really glad that he has, his family still advocating for him, not giving up, and, that you're helping add voices to that. He's very loved, clearly.
And this is going to turn into a real, very emotional conversation if we go any further with this. I think this is just a good place to end this episode right now, unless you have anything real pressing.
Well, I want to ask Lynn's question. I think it's a question that comes to mind with all this discussion that we're having, just to kind of make sure we know what I'm sure is the answer. Lynn says, does Benton Harbor have anything resembling a citizen advisory board to investigate police-involved shootings today?
I don't know. Whatever they have isn't working, if they have something.
Yeah. That's pretty much all I have. There are some questions that rolled in regarding last week. Certainly there are people who, like Kathy, who are, wanting to try to help this family get justice.
This is what needs to happen, I think, is we need to actually get case material, our hands on case materials, and actually investigate this case to figure out because the first thing that has to happen is to figure out what happened here.
Yeah.
We have to know what happened before we can know what we can do next. And I don't know, if I want to know what investigate, has anybody ever looked into this other than the Benton Harbor PD? I believe the state police looked at it at some point. I want to see what actually happened here. From there, we'll figure out where we're going to go next. I don't think we should jump to any conclusions at this point.
Sure.
But as soon as we're able to give you a more clear answer of what happened, then we'll go from there.
Okay. Well, we're sending our best to the family.
Yep, and I'm sure they are listening to this, and I know that they appreciate just anyone who's willing to hear their story. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap this thing up. This weekend, you'll hear the episode back to Jody's case. We're going to be talking about the physical evidence in Jody's case, and we'll be talking with you guys again next week. Maybe we'll have some more answers. I'll at least be able to update you on what's going on with the investigation into Darius's case, along with what's going on with Jody's next week. We'll talk to you guys then.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys.
All right.
Oh, I literally did not mean to whisper. I did not mean to whisper.
Yeah.
It just happened.
Yeah.
I mean, makes sense.
Oh, that's right. I keep realizing when I'm going through it, like I'm just obviously you can tell I'm fucking angry about the whole thing, and I just realized like you're just yelling about stuff, and we're not really accomplishing anything other than me just being pissed off. But I think we need to be pissed off. I think all of you guys need to be listening to this, paying attention. Something's got to happen. Something's got to happen in that city, and I think that.
And in other cities, I mean, I'm happy for this to be our focus, but I saw you. I think it's you, Brooke, right? And you're up in Oakland, and we saw undisclosed cover stuff in Baltimore. Like we've seen people be thrown away before, and we have to keep fighting.
Yep, and we will, and try to lighten the mood before we end this. Mimi did comment in the chat.
I saw that, and I was in the middle of giving my opinion about something really emotional, and then I saw you smirk. I said, Mimi, I see your comment, Mimi. I'm not going to break up my train of thought because I don't want to mess Erica up.
So now that we're not recording anymore, for you in the chat to know, Mimi says, Mr. Bossman, I'm hoping I'm not late for this because the chat came in a little bit later. She said, I did meet. I'm not gonna say his name Mimi because I think Erica might be mad at me for doing that. But that she did meet Erica's friend, but it was before they went to trivia, and he didn't have his purse. And if he had, you could bet the ranch I'd say something. See,
Mimi, his satchel. Mimi.
No, Mimi.
Mimi.
Listen, I knew you'd be there for me. I knew you'd be there for me, Mimi. You know what, Mimi? When they come back, maybe just go out and smack him with your purse anyway. And just tell him it's from me. Also, Zach Mimi did pass something along for me to give to you.
I can't even get him saying it.
All right. Chat, we love you guys. Thanks for being part of this. Putting up with our crazy emotional swings. Yeah. We love you guys. And we'll talk to you guys next week.
Hey, thank you for the birthday wishes, guys.
Yeah, happy